Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Force Chatter. We are here to discuss the second episode in the Book of Boba Fett. I guess the second chapter, right? Because it's a book. That makes more sense, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. You gotta
keep it on track here. So I'm Eric. I'm here with Tom, Tim, and Lou. Lou, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's no complaints. I'm looking forward to Wednesday again.
Yeah.
Wednesday's fantastic.
You know, the nice thing about doing the show on a Sunday is, ideally we could do it Wednesday night, and then, not everybody would be around to listen live, and then, it would feel like a longer wait. But getting the show on Wednesdays and then getting to record it on Sundays after we've had a couple of days to digest it, and then now it's only 2 more days without a new episode. It's not that bad.
True.
Yeah, very true.
Breaks it
True.
up a little bit.
It's a good way to look at it.
Tim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's I think winter is finally settling in here. We're expecting a few inches of snow tonight, and into tomorrow. And Tuesday with the wind chill like 25 below.
Awesome.
So there we are.
You guys think I'm joking?
We're back.
I miss it. Like I'm down for that.
So do I.
I like winter, but we're looking for the hot type weather on Tuesday with negative 25 wind chill. I don't like negative 25 wind chill.
The lowest is negative 98 in gusts, not like sustained. North Dakota. It was 1997, I think. Yeah, it was a bad 3-day ice storm. Anyhow, we don't have it that bad. So we're getting freezing rain tonight into tomorrow. But I found out that starting tomorrow, indefinitely, I'm working from home 4 days a week.
Nice.
That's
awesome. Yeah. Tom, how are you doing?
I need it talking about hot weather. I need it like Tatooine. So watching these episodes warms my soul. It's also cold here, not quite as cold as it is near you, Lou and Tim. But yeah, I need that hot desert, which I don't have.
Our listeners, our longtime listeners, know how much I hate deserts, sand, all of that. It's not Tatooine that I hate. I just hate deserts in general. This episode had so many examples of what I despise about deserts. And maybe we can get to that as the episode goes on, but this epitomizes everything I loathe about sand and sandy environments. So I get what you're saying, Tom, but I don't know. Oh, and by the way, speaking of that, that gold belt on that clone trooper behind you, I have a trivia question for you today.
Oh boy! Time to lose the belt.
It's a toughie. If you get it, I'll be impressed. And I don't know. So it's one of those list all of the things that blank, and I don't know that I know all of them. So we might even have to rely on our listeners to chime in. Yeah. So I don't even fully know the answer. I know some of the answers. So we're going to see how you do. If we have to look it up online later or have our listeners chime in, we've got people here in the chat room already. Hi, everybody. And of course, people can comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening to it in the audio podcast later, you can cheat. It's okay. We don't mind.
This is true. I'll never know.
Go to randomchatter.com/YouTube. And then it'll take you to the YouTube page. Hit subscribe and like, and then scroll down to the comments and put your comments in. You can do that. We don't mind. So, but
nice comment. Nice.
Yeah,
be nice. Sensitive about this. And let me tell you why. Now it'd be too.
I listen. I know.
Mm-hmm.
The comment that went up a couple days ago about bald guys and who that came from. What?
Mm-hmm. I didn't. I didn't think I hit the.
I didn't even know about that.
I thought I cleared that out.
Yeah. Eric, we know it was you. Mm-hmm. Yep. Real nice.
You need a good legal thing.
Thank you.
I'm here. My client has comment.
That's what I meant to say.
No
comment at this time. All right. So
that's a crummy defense.
Hey, I'll take what I can get. I'm a crummy defendant. So.
Listen.
There you go.
All right, the Book of Boba Fett. Episode.
What's the trivia question? You said. Hang on. No. You said this trivia question.
That's the end of the episode.
Oh,
this is what we in the YouTube world that I've only just entered called a tease. So it's the way to get people to listen all the way to the episode instead of dropping off like as soon as they start hearing my dad jokes.
Or
I usually drop off dad jokes.
You normally drop off
but you tease 5 minutes into the episode.
We gave the tease earlier on, and then we rambled. See how that works? Yeah, it was actually a few minutes ago.
In typical
I have tried 4 times now. Say the Book of Boba Fett episode 2. Here we go. And this time we're actually going to do it. So this is the Tribes.
Here we go.
Not gonna falling for it. Tribes of Tatooine. The duration of this episode, not including the credits, was 48 minutes and 12 seconds. So this was longer by a good 10 minutes, I think.
Oh yeah. I think it's over one time.
Yeah, if you want to include the credits,
the credits and the flashback. And I think there was like 40 minutes of flashback.
There was of the 48 minutes of actual content. Now again, that includes the recap and the intro credits. Okay, so if you figure 3 minutes off of that. So we'll call it 45 minutes of actual content. 34 of those were flashback. Now, listen, I love the flashbacks. They're really good. It's good content. I kind of want to know what's happening now. You know?
And the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking about you and your conversation last week about that. And I get that. I agree with you. I'd like to see the new stuff. But this is, the Book of Boba Fett is.
I get it.
Books are typically written about what was before, so this is giving us what we need to get up to.
I know.
Maybe next season we get the current stuff. But
again,
I've always been a big one of and I've always been a big one of. I wonder how we got to where we're at. Like the whole leading up to the Force Awakens. I wanted to know how we got there, and now I'm how we got to Boba sitting on the throne.
Yeah,
it's like a weird. It's a function of him being this weird character where we have all this backstory up to like age 13 maybe something like that, and then nothing, and then he's got all this popularity, and then you've got to give some meat on the bone to understand his motivations and whatnot. So it's a weird place creatively. I would have to think to write a show like this about a character where, unlike Luke or Han or really anybody else, you've got nothing from his adult life to work on. You have to write it from whole cloth.
So for those in the chat room, thank you for pointing out that there was an echo. I don't know what's going on with OBS. Everybody had their own audio settings, and today they're back to being all combined like they were about a year and a half ago. I tell you, just can't win for losing.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, I don't want to make it sound like a complaint. I want to see what's happening now. There's so much story with the whole crime lord syndicate battle taking over thing that, I get the flashbacks and the character building. And especially this episode was really, really good about it. But I really want to dive into the crime war that's going on and the power vacuum and all that kind of stuff. Like, to me, if I had to choose between the two, that's the more compelling story. So I think for me, it's just more the proportion that's being spent in the past. It's like 2/3 of the 2 episodes we've had so far.
So I last episode of Force Chatter, I don't know that I necessarily complained about the time spent on the backstory, but I said, hey, I kind of only want them, I want them to like wrap it up. And yeah, while I do want to see some story of, the whole crime syndicate thing and crime lord thing and moving forward and all that, this episode was one of the greatest examples of storytelling performed by the franchise in quite a while. I think it was absolutely phenomenal storytelling. So even if you aren't a huge fan of the whole flashback thing that they're doing, take a step back and look at this from a storytelling perspective of what they're doing with it. And it was amazing.
And even a lot of the haters.
It was absolutely amazing. It was damn near flawless.
Even a lot of the haters online were starting to turn around and say, okay, this episode, this was good.
It was really good stuff. I don't know if I can go to a point saying nearly flawless, but I mean, there was some stuff that kind of dragged a little bit. You know, it was like the whole training montage was a little bit long in terms of like riding the speeder bikes and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we can move on from here, you know. But overall, I am really loving the fact that we're getting this backstory on how he is, you know, how he was trained by them and interactions and, you know, the whole gaffy stick thing. And, you know, and we can foreshadow as to what this is going to be later on in the episode. You know, is it going to be, you know, well, we won't go into that yet, but that's all speculation.
Well, we're going to get into it now.
And it changed some things, the preconceptions that we had about the Tuskens. You know, going back to A New Hope. Really, I mean, it keeps giving us more and more. And even though we got a little bit of that in The Mandalorian, we're getting so much more now. And I'm a big fan of the Tuskens now. Huge fan.
Well, you don't want to stereotype them.
Really nice people. Like I want to go hang out with them.
Tim, were you stereotyping the Tuskens earlier before this? I mean,
I'll admit that maybe a little bit I was. It was only based though on the information I was given, which was it was clearly very skewed. So
Tim was skewed before, and now he's okay. I gotta say, listen, they shoot more accurately than stormtroopers do. If you count how many shots and how many misses there are, and then you compare it to like any stormtroopers, if you compare them to a whole garrison of stormtroopers,
they can kill pikes, shoot pikes through a window of a speeding train.
Yeah.
I mean, damn.
That was good. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know, Empire. You got some work to do there. This episode was directed by Steph Green. The first one we didn't really talk about it last weekend, but it was done by Robert Rodriguez, who appears in this episode. We'll talk about the present first. So at the beginning of the episode, Fennec is dragging the prisoner that she took into, I guess it's not Jabba's palace anymore, right? It's Boba's palace. This is awesome.
Right.
I've been waiting decades to be able to say something cool like, hey, Boba Fett's palace. This is great. So he's a member of the Order of the Night Wind. Now, to my knowledge, this is new in Star Wars lore. Tom, would you concur with that?
Yeah, I don't have a recollection. If there's an origin in Legends, it's lost on me.
So I'm good with Legends. Some of the new canon stuff, not quite as well, but I'm not aware of anything in Legends either. So I think this is brand new. But in the lore, they're legendary. They're never going to talk unless you have a place for a Rancor without an actual Rancor. And they're apparently not allowed to operate outside of hut space. Yeah.
What's going to be really annoying here is that you're going to have a lot of your old timers on Tatooine who are going to say, just like in my town, like, go down the road until you hit the Smith farm and then take a left. Well, I'm sorry, but the Smiths died 40 years ago and it's had 2 other owners since. It's no longer the Smith farm. They're going to be saying the same thing. Well, you go up the mountain to Jabba's palace and then you kind of hang a left and people are like, Jabba, who's Jabba? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Our apologies to the Smith family. The views of Tim do not represent the views of the Random Chatter Podcast Network.
One thing that I like, that the button for the trapdoor to the Rancor pit, if you notice, is in the mouth of a Rancor statue, which is awesome.
Kind of cool.
Yes.
But
well done.
What if the Rancor had been living and that door opened up and he squealed and told the truth or whatever version of it? What did he think Boba Fett and Fennec were going to do?
Drop down in there and kill the Rancor?
Yeah, I know. He was a goner anyways at that point. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, like that that kind of broke it for me a little bit. I'm like, okay, we can see that the room is empty. He can't see that the room is empty. Empty and well lit.
And I mean, and the thing is, I mean, and to Tom's point, like they can't like call it off. They can't like, hey, Charlene, stop. He's okay now. He's a friend.
Close the door, maybe if it hadn't come through yet.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But then if it sticks its head in and you close the door, there's a history of that in that pit.
Yeah.
The doors need to have like your garage door. They got to have those little sensors.
Yeah.
That like if someone's in there, then the door will automatically go back up. There's a huge safety issue here, and considering that this is actually a workplace, I think OSHA probably has some
involved. The Death Star, right?
You know,
no handrails.
We're not going to go there.
You know, I just don't get why all of a sudden he caves under the whole pressure of the Rancor is going to get me. I don't see why that was any worse than, he's going to be quick.
It was
probably.
Imminent death, Lou. It was the threat of imminent death.
He had a sword to his throat. He was going to be dead there.
If I had to choose, I'd rather die that way than being torn to shreds by a giant monster creature or something, or have my head bitten off or whatever. Like,
well, they could cut your throat. You could bleed out. That would take a bit. I mean, I'm just thinking, how much worse could that have been?
This episode's getting dark. Any parents out there, you might want to take your kids into another room. Just saying.
Now we got to rate this like PG-13 because Lou took this in a whole different direction.
So, to be clear, there was no Rancor. Nobody died.
There was a mouse.
Well, that's not true because then after that they go visit the mayor. And then the guy does die, so a lot of good it did him.
How did I not realize that the mouth of an Ithorian was actually on the side of their neck?
A little translator.
They're two separate, almost like gills, but they're actually mouths, and their vocal cords are back behind the two.
Yeah, I'd never realized there was solid effects on this one to make me like, hey, look, there's his mouth.
They did really well with it. And I think it was covered in Legends a long time ago too, but we don't really see many Ithorians. So it's these effects on it were so good. I mentioned Robert Rodriguez. He plays the Ithorian.
Okay.
So nice little cameo there.
Is he actually in the suit or is he the voice? Do we know?
Oh,
definitely the voice. He is
the voice. I don't know if he's also in the suit.
Yeah, I don't know how you get your neck through that head thing.
Yeah. To get your eyes.
Well, and in that case, how much of a suit is there?
Well, the original Momon Nadon from the Ithorian in the Cantina and A New Hope
name dropping.
You didn't know
he was
Nadon?
There was nobody.
Gosh, Tim.
You didn't have that toy?
Did you get the Power of the Force one? And now keep in mind, in Legends, Ithorians are pacifists, and it had the biggest frickin' cannon for a gun of any toy. Like Dash Rendar with the backpack rifle thing didn't have a gun as big as Momon Nadon did.
It's like a double barrel.
I love the fact that we cannot stay on one topic for 30 seconds, and I will derail it every time. I love it.
And then he'll complain about the episode running long.
I will.
Oh, if you guys could only see the Skype chat. Yeah. So, no, they did a really good job with the effects on the mayor. And let me tell you right now, I'm not the biggest social media nerd, and I need to fix that, but we need to get a campaign going to save the Major Domo, because when this series is over, like, he needs to either be Boba Fett's Major Domo or he needs to do something else in the Star Wars universe, because I love this guy. I love the character. I love the actor.
Yeah.
He needs to be in every freaking episode. Like, even if they have to fly him in, if they're on a different planet or something, I don't care. He needs to be there somewhere. This guy is awesome. He's now one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to see him show up in other things.
Yeah.
Like the Kenobi series, but Kenobi walks into any building anywhere and this guy is going to be there.
That needs to be a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whoever out there is like really plugged into social media, on our behalf, please go start a Save the Major Domo campaign. Whatever hashtags you need to throw out there, like let's get this guy in Star Wars permanently. All right. So Mok Shaiz is the name of the mayor. Yes, thank you. He suggests that, so first of all, it turns out that the assassins apparently were not hired by the mayor, or if they were hired by the mayor, they were hired by the mayor to, he was directed to hire them. But I'm guessing, back to your point, Lou, when the guy caved, it was an attempt to protect his employer, and it wasn't actually the mayor, and he lied and said it was the mayor.
True.
It could be that too, maybe. Which does give me a little bit more respect for that group. So,
that's true.
The implication is it wasn't the mayor. So the mayor sends...
Either that or he was hired by the mayor through...
Like somebody said, hey...
The twins.
Find some assassins.
Subcontract.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We're not entirely sure yet. We may find out. He's sent over to Garza's sanctuary. And then the Hutts arrive.
So yeah, I have now the newest worst job in Star Wars.
Do you see how much that thing bowed in the middle?
Yeah. It was bowing in the middle. Like, who wants to carry the litter of Hutt twins? Yeah, that's a bad job.
Somebody did the math
on Tatooine.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. It's not like it's on Alderaan or someplace nice. Tatooine. Somebody did the math. Each one of those guys would have had to have been carrying well over 300 pounds apiece constantly as they're walking. And that's just holding it, not even accounting for the fact that then you're walking with it in the Tatooine sun, etc., which must have been hot because the Hutt had this little like mouse thing that he was using to soak up the sweat.
Which was fantastic. There was a great little tiny detail that the first time I barely noticed it, and then the second time I watched it, I'm like, oh, that's so really funny.
I felt so bad for that thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I do with my little dog when it gets really hot. Is I kind of use her to. I sweat a lot. The bald head.
Well, and she's like handheld size too.
She's effective.
Oh yeah, exactly. A lot of fur.
So here's what I'm thinking. It would not surprise me if there's actually a repulsor lift underneath that thing, and it's set to just not be
minimum.
Yeah, not be sufficient, just to kind of like as a show of dominance and
it's set at like 5 pounds.
Depending on how they're feeling.
Because you clearly have to have a litter.
That's the thing on Tatooine. Yeah, everybody. Oh, I didn't know you. I didn't see your litter.
Yeah. They seem very upset by that whole, like very put off by it. Like
it's like the only thing that lets us know that you're coming.
Right. Tim, when we go to Celebration, we need to have a litter.
Carry around. Yeah.
We'll see. If we can arrange that.
A call out to all of our fans. We need people to carry us.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll put a sign up list.
Yeah. We'll give you a pin or something. Sure. A t-shirt. Well, yeah, obviously t-shirts because everyone has to have a uniform because it needs to look.
That's right.
It can't be all like hodgepodge. That's
I carried the random chatter litter and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
There you go.
Boom. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So these two, brother and sister, cousins of Jabba, kind of look like maybe the sister's running the show a little bit. She's one kind of whispering, making all the decisions, and then the brother kind of acts as the voice.
Yeah, we don't know who these two are, but I just love like the ominous feeling in this entire scene. Fett has a lot of plot armor, but in this moment, it was sort of like here's two folks that also have some in terms of their position in the galaxy, their hired gun, which we'll get to in a minute. But everything from the drum beat to just seeing two Hutts on screen. And sort of the pomp as they're presented. And even I think Fennec is the one that says, if we're going to kill him, we'll need permission. These two aren't just your average gangsters. And I don't know that these two in particular have been introduced, to my knowledge, in canon anywhere.
I don't think they have now.
We've seen a lot of the Hutt clan in the Clone Wars, but not twins. So these two are power players. Obviously, they've got an interest here. They've got a lot of money because the hired gun that they have is not a cheap hire.
No, let's talk about that. So this is Black Chrysanthemum, and first appearance in Darth Vader #1, the Darth Vader comic book series from 2015. He was also he's worked for Vader. He's also worked for Dr. Aphra and was in the Dr. Aphra comics. Has a backstory with Boba Fett. But I have not read those episodes or those issues. So I don't know if you guys have or not, but I'm not that familiar with that specific aspect of the story. But this bounty hunter is, he's pretty badass. He's the real deal.
Oh yeah.
He has, he has metal injected into his knuckles in order to make him a better gladiator when he was doing the gladiator fights. Like,
that's dedication to your craft. Yeah,
that is. I was I was like hugely surprised seeing him on screen, and actually paused it because it was just like so incredible. I'm like, wow. And like
you recognized him,
they,
right?
They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I paused it to confirm. I pulled up a picture. I was like, no. And this is one of those moments. I hope we get more of it like this, where you don't need to read the comics or any of the outside material to get it, right? This is like a badass hired gun, an evil looking Wookiee. That's enough, right?
And Fett points out that he has a backstory with him of some sort. We don't need the details, but there's just enough dialogue.
Something about a napping Trandoshan.
I love that line. These are not the death pits of Dur, and I'm not a sleeping Trandoshan.
Yeah.
And he just growls. But no, I mean, like for fans that have not read it, you get it, right? You get all you need to know just by seeing him and hearing that back and forth. But for folks that have read any amount with him in it, that was one of those payoff moments where you're like, oh man, this is it. It's that much richer of a moment for you. So it works both ways. I hope we see moments like that repeatedly. There was a tweet, I think Pablo Hidalgo had mentioned. This is not in the context of Black Chrysanthemum, but another little sprinkle. But basically said, hey, look out for more of this stuff. There's more coming. And so this is probably the latest delivery of it. But I'm all for it. If it gives current fans a reason to go explore that stuff, that's awesome. But it's sort of like a complete payoff for the time spent.
And I think that if you go explore this, the payoff will be good. I mean, the Darth Vader comic, I never finished that series.
It's great.
Fantastic. Probably the best of any of the Marvel series, as far as like an ongoing series. And Dr.
25 issues.
And then they rebooted it, right? Like there was a new Darth Vader ongoing series.
Different. Yeah, they've each been sort of encapsulated stories. So you could pick up the graphic novel and that's it, right? So you get everything you need to know.
And then
from
also
that arc.
Dr. Aphra. Great series, great character, great stories.
Yeah.
So, and I like that because everything you just said, Tom, like if you do decide to go look into this character, it's not going to bore you. Like there's good content there.
No,
this is
really good.
Right.
So happy about this.
And there's a lot of people like expecting that we're going to see Aphra by the end of
Aphra and
series.
Kira are the two big
like heavily
names.
And so, so like, I don't know if this is just simply like, you always get this, like people just simply want it. So they talk about it, or there's actually some reason to think that these characters are going to show up. So I don't know that there's any reason to think it, but maybe, I don't know. Tom, you got something?
I put a higher odds for Aphra than I do for Kira. Kira is from a story standpoint, she makes sense. She's got a broad-based popularity amongst folks that really enjoyed Solo and liked Emilia Clarke's portrayal of her, that sort of thing. They've brought her back into a new comic series. But Aphra, other than the ongoing just Star Wars generic title comic that's been going since 2015, the only comic that has had as long a run or almost as long a run has been Dr. Aphra. So there's a reason why they're continuing to spend money on this character, on this story. It is the best written comic that they have out there, and she is just a really, really good character. Somebody that can not necessarily match guns with like a Darth Vader or a Boba Fett, but is really, really witty and smart, a fun character.
She's what makes, like everything that makes Han Solo interesting to watch when he's on his own.
Yeah.
She has those qualities.
Yeah, she's just really, really good. And I think there's a reason they're clearly invested in that character. And that she had, for folks that have read the comics, she's wildly popular. It's one of their best sellers. And so I put higher odds on seeing Dr. Aphra because she also has had a deep history with all of these characters. So that would be, that to me would be like the payoff moment of payoff moments to see her on screen.
Yeah. All right.
And Tom had mentioned the the Despots of Dur and the other part of the quote about the sleeping Trandoshan. I love that they drop something like that in there when it makes nothing else to anything else backstory wise whatsoever. It's just a quote they dropped in, and we don't know if it pertains to the Wookiee. We don't know if it pertains to the Hutts. We don't know if it pertains to something that he did, or if it's just a common known thing that, hey, the Despots of Dur are pretty bad, and Trandoshans sleep on the job a lot. We don't know. It's just there's so many things that are just fun about that. I'm like, that's cool.
He says it with such spite,
right?
Like it's a dig just from the delivery.
That's something that Star Wars has always done, and I'm glad they're continuing that. I mean, we knew nothing about what the spice mines of Kessel were, or the Battle of Tanab, or so many different references that they throw in to kind of make the universe feel bigger, and they're continuing to do that.
Yeah. And this could be something that. And right now,
sometimes they fill in those blanks, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and I'm good either way. Some author out there is going to go, "Oh, Despots of Dur. I'm writing something about that."
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, hey, give them ideas. Yeah. Yeah. So here's a question out of that scene, though. Who is it? And we're going to find out. Who is it they need to ask before they have permission to kill a Hutt?
The Hutts.
Good question. Yeah, I'm thinking somebody higher up the Hutts. Yeah.
So.
Only the Hutt Council can authorize that.
Yeah.
Like who would they? Yeah, I mean, other than Maul, who they were briefly aligned with during the Shadow Collective days, who do the Hutts answer to as a higher criminal authority?
Well, and that's why some people are speculating Kira comes in, and maybe she's running, like she's taken over Maul's position as running all of the syndicates. I don't know if that's the case, but. Otherwise, you have to ask a Hutt to kill a Hutt, and then how much backstory do you have to give to get? I mean, now you're kind of getting into their family dynamics and all that. I don't know. I'm curious where they're going to go with this. One last thing about Chrysanthemum. So he's played by Kerry Jones, who you guys probably have never seen before. You've seen his work. He is a famous makeup artist and special effects artist. He's done The Walking Dead. He did the Suicide Squad movies. He's done, his list of effects work and makeup work on IMDb is just as long as my arm. He's done a lot of stuff.
Cool.
So, and I got to say, they nailed the look of that. Like right down to the scar. He's got a scar on the side of his face. About 10 years before the Battle of Yavin, he kidnapped Owen Lars, and Obi-Wan sliced the side of his face up with his lightsaber. And right down to there's a kind of a scar there, but then the hair's grown back to kind of cover it too. So if you know to look for it, you can see it. And if you don't know to look for it, it looks like just normal. The look in his eyes as he's standing there in front of it, like just everything about the delivery of that character was just perfect. The presence as he's walking.
Just a mean looking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like that's a Wookiee you do not meet. That's a Wookiee you don't want to meet in a well-lit street, much less a dark alley.
I want to see him fully restrained and chained down even. I'd be a little worried. He's just frightening. Yeah.
Either that or you get to be really good friends with him. That's someone who you absolutely want to be friends with. Yeah.
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 Be his barber if you have to, just whatever it takes. All right. Flashbacks. The training and the train. So we get, as we mentioned before, the speeding train going by, which we find out later is owned by the Pike Syndicate. Now, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're the ones that control Kessel and the spice mines.
Correct. Yeah, we saw that in Solo.
And then they were also in, I wrote it down here, season 5, episode 14 of the Clone Wars. I'm a fan of the Clone Wars, but I'm not like a trivia expert on Clone Wars at all. But, so they've been around a while. Yeah,
there's a whole story arc where they had involvement in what's his name in Sifo Dyas's death. So they were not primarily involved, but they had involvement.
I really need to do a Clone Wars rewatch.
They're known conspirators.
Okay. All right, so they're the ones that own the train and have been going through the territory there. We'll come back to them in a minute. Boba Fett offers to go take care of the problem. So next we get to one of my favorite places that we've never officially seen before, and that's Tashi Station. Not a dang power converter to be seen.
Do we know that was Tashi Station though?
We do.
We do.
So
okay,
you can go back and.
Was there something in Aurebesh or something?
No. You can look at the scenes that were cut from A New Hope, and the building is the same. The two characters are confirmed to be Fixer and Cammy from that same scene.
Mm-hmm. Which I was very excited about that. Fixer, I don't think they actually put his name in the caption, but for Cammy, they did. For Cammy, they did. And as soon as they brought it up, I'm like, holy crap, that's Cammy. Like, wow, cut characters that, from A New Hope that we suddenly have. That's awesome.
Yeah. So is that the first time they've been brought into canon?
Yes. As far as I know.
I mean, you got comics.
I don't know if any.
So I don't know if they've made an appearance.
No, I don't know of any comics that they were in. I'm trying to think if they were in a certain point of view book, but
that's not really
I don't
canon,
think they were even in there. Yeah, it is. Those stories are.
I thought they were considered canon adjacent.
No, they're canon as far as I know. But in any event, I don't think they're in there. So
there's a belt over Tom's shoulder that says otherwise.
Hey,
I'm just saying, go with it.
It pains me to say this, but I saw him get a question wrong. And it happens rarely, but it does happen.
And it was only one question, and the thing is, they asked him what his middle name was. He was so focused on Star Wars stuff, he got it wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Luke doesn't deflect every blaster bolt.
Yeah.
Some get through.
That's true.
There you go. Yeah.
I remember him getting shot in the hand.
Man, you should just chop it off, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't know why he doesn't do that. All right. Yeah. So Boba Fett goes after the Nikto gang that's there, steals their bikes, and takes them back to the Tuskens. And then we have the training montage. Lou, I heard what you said before about it felt like it took a long time, and I agreed. And then I rewatched it and looked at how much screen time it actually took, and it wasn't that long.
I didn't time it, but it just felt like it was like, okay, I get it. They're having a hard time riding the bikes. I understand.
If they hopped on the bikes,
it was less time than Rocky chasing a chicken, Lou. Less time than Rocky chasing a chicken. If they hopped on the bikes, just out of the blue, and they could ride just fine, nobody would have believed it. They had to put something.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a heavy meat, but it didn't take it away from me. I wasn't like I was going, oh, okay, I'm done. I'm turning this off. No, it was just, I'm like, okay, let's get to the good part. Let's get to the good part.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I thought it was great. It was just, it was really good.
So I take it back. So the thing that bothers me the most about that is we don't expect them to ride the bikes well off the bat because it's new. They ride banthas. They go a lot slower. They walk a lot. They don't have anything to ride on. But now we're going to get them trained up to the point where not only you'll be able to ride these things and jump from one to another, you're gonna be able to take out a train on these. So you guys are gonna be that good in this little montage. So it didn't seem plausible to me either way.
They did fail.
I get what they're trying to do.
Some of them didn't make the jumps at the end, and they did struggle. They had losses. I would have been upset if it had just been totally clean. Now, speaking of losses, though, not to sidetrack this part of the conversation, I was surprised at how many losses the Tuskens took. Yeah.
I mean, they lost guys both times, both on the train assault and when the train went by the first time. They lost Bantha, and I'm thinking to myself,
way too many Banthas.
Yeah, I'm like,
hide your Banthas.
These can't be easy to come by. These guys are living off the land, and they don't have a lot of excess, resources, and they lost a lot of resources when they lost a couple of Banthas. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Don't put your Bantha closer to the train like that. You got to put the Banthas on the far end of the camp where the Pikes can't shoot them. I mean, and also, I mean, legitimately, the Pikes are. I mean, I know they were spraying a lot of gunfire out there, but they were pretty effective in what they were doing.
Oh, they were, yeah.
So props to them also for finding some good shooters.
Be able to shoot better than.
Well, it wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
The scene, probably 2/3 of the way into the battle, where it's kind of coming over the little dune there, and you see, I don't know, 15, 20 wild banthas just kind of wandering around. Yeah. I mean, it looks like there are still some more if they need some, but.
Yeah, I get it. It just seemed like it was like,
you see that now, though. At the time, it was like, oh my gosh, that could be half their herd right there.
Yeah, it's like, wow. Yeah, they lost a lot right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing was very much like, a Western, and the Tuscans very much akin to like Native Americans and that kind of stuff, and a statement on the Western expansion of white folks, through the U.S. and killing buffalo, and I mean it was all very really direct correlation. And I loved how they did it. I thought it was. I thought the whole sequence, that whole thing, was just done exceptionally well.
There were a lot of analogies to that, and then separate from that, there was also a lot of correlation to old films too that we've been seeing so far. And in this case, it was it Lawrence of Arabia? I'm told. I've never seen it because old movie.
It was actually just on 2 nights ago.
I was streaming stuff because it's 2022. So, yeah. But.
And I mean, I had a good relationship with him. I call him Larry.
And he's okay with that?
That's okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. He makes me call him.
Way back.
Doesn't quite run off.
So
it doesn't quite flow off the tongue very well. Larry of Arabia. Yeah.
Plus, they're not clear where the other Stooges are from. So, Curly Moe.
Mediocre modeler in the chat here just said it. I'm surprised no one said you couldn't hit the broadside of a bantha.
They did.
Clearly, there's a couple of pikes that did. They did exceptionally well with that.
Yep.
So, I have to say that.
Can we talk about the lizard in the room?
I was seeing if there's, because I want to get to the lizard, and I'm like, is there anything else we need to say about the battle? I think the battle, it worked, and I want to say this is one of the
lizard in the room.
How about that crazy robot conductor, the droid conductor?
Oh, that dude was messed up.
He's committed.
Yes, and apparently didn't have any problem with just ducking out at the end and crawling across the sand like a little crab. So.
As far as I could go, I'm done.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. That was a good battle, though. I have to say that was one of the best action scenes, if you want to count the other 2 seasons of Mandalorian along with this. Like, that whole sequence was really good. It was a strong sequence. So, all right. We get back to camp. That lizard. Like, I already don't like lizards that much. And that was just, it was so first I thought he ate it, like it crawled into his mouth and then he swallowed it or something. And then it comes back afterwards. No.
Here,
right back into the little
slight deviation of the topic here. But I mean, your birthday's coming up and I got you a gift. It's a very small gift. I think you might like it.
Something you would say would be meant to guide me? Oh, I can't hear him anymore.
Either he's frozen or he's doing a really good stone face. I think he's frozen.
I think he deserves it. I think the gift has that backfired.
That was one of the.
That was disturbing. That was creepy. That was like so messed up.
I don't normally cringe at stuff, but that was like, I was watching it in the morning before work. And I was like, I didn't need to see that this early in the morning.
And then when he's done, he just goes back in his little, I don't know, powder thing. Ooh. So I guess. There are trees on Tatooine.
That's probably the hardest part of that whole thing is finding the tree.
Uh-oh.
I mean...
We lost him. Yeah,
entirely. Yeah.
Lost him. I guess. Can we? Oh, no, it's not.
I like leaving his face that way.
I mean,
it looks good,
there are worse faces he's made.
There are.
We could pull in that one where he's like got that look of surprise on his face. But anyhow, so you've got the big tree and the little tree. I don't know if that's supposed to be analogous to like the Tuscans, who are taller, and the Jawas, who are shorter. I don't know if that's supposed to be symbolic. I guess the lizard's done with Tim.
Misa bad.
Lizard hopped out and left him alone now.
He said Misa bad,
right?
He froze again.
Skype said, "Oh hell
yeah,
no."
there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
The darn thing is that it froze up.
Yeah.
I keep freezing. It froze up as I threw out a great joke about lizards selling insurance. And I don't know if you can hear me.
Is it a joke we would have been sued for?
Okay.
That's the question. Maybe it's
no, not at all. I didn't.
Oh boy. Okay.
Anyway,
my internet is clearly having some
right.
issues.
Yeah.
I was just we were enjoying the idea of you having a lizard like crawling around in your cranium.
You know, in the chat room, Mediocre Modeler said his gift that was that he left.
Oh, points.
Hey, it's all good.
Save 15% on your speeder insurance. Look, I love weird Star Wars, and it's been a while since we've gotten some real weird Star Wars, and this was it in spades. And to get like a peek, the slightest peek back into what that Tatooine has not always been a desert planet, I was just, and to hear that the Tuscans existed back then and have endured on Tatooine and found a way to survive, I was just eating that up by the spoonful.
Yeah, between the backstory and then the whole kind of psychedelic trip.
So there's now even more parallels between Tatooine and Arrakis. They both used to be green at one point, and interesting. Spices involved.
They're doing video content where they don't have enough time to actually finish the story. Yeah, a lot of similarities. So yeah, a lot of people have kind of picked up. We're not going to do it here unless you guys really want to. A lot of people have picked apart that I don't want to call it a drug trip, but that kind of psychedelic sequence there, and finding lots of different analogies and stuff in there and metaphors for different things. And I think there's a lot you can dive into there if you want to. But I think it was interesting to see him go through something like that, almost a spiritual journey to find what he's going to end up using to create his gaffy stick. And then now, I guess, like, we didn't really get the impression that his gaffy stick had a connection necessarily. We're like, oh, hey, that's something he grabbed off the table as he walked away from the Tuscans. When we saw it in Mando.
Or he killed the Tuscan and,
Yeah, I kind of figured he killed one
something
and
like
took
that.
a stick.
And it turns out instead there's meaning there.
It's very similar to a Jedi getting his lightsaber, right? I mean, he's got to go through the
ritual
process of building it and making it and shaping it. Yep.
That camp, by the way, is straight out of a Ralph McQuarrie piece of concept art that they did. So, like, right down to like the curved structure with the pieces kind of falling off and everything. So that was a nice throwback.
Okay.
It also it expands on what we know of gaffy sticks as well, because I think even in you go look at like a visual dictionary thing, and it just talks about them in terms of being made from scavenged parts and whatnot. So even amongst the Tuscans, there hadn't been that backstory just yet, and suddenly you knew it was the weapon of choice, but now there's sort of an ancestral connection to Tatooine. I think that's really, really cool. Not just that, but like the garb. Everybody sort of assumed like, oh, cool, he's wearing black now. That's awesome. Under the armor, that looks better. Now that's got some deeper meaning to it, which is really neat to see.
I think that's going to do it for coverage of the episode. I do have that little trivia question.
Oh,
Yes.
here I had forgotten about it.
Yes, you forgot. So,
Oh dear.
in this episode, in Jabba's palace, well, Boba's palace, excuse me, we saw a rat. So, Tom, I want to know, in the films, what actual real world animals or creatures have we seen in Star Wars films?
Oh man. Well, you've got a couple on Dagobah, like some kind. I don't know
You
what
have to
kind
be
of
specific about.
king
Okay, so
snake or-
snake. Yeah, we don't have to be specific
yeah,
about
snake
species.
and I don't know, not a Komodo dragon, but something like that. On Dagobah as he enters the cave. Let's see here. You have seen rats.
Jabba's
in
palace.
Jabba's palace in the dungeon. Let's see
So I
here.
want to
What
be fair
else
right
am I
now before you
missing?
even go on. I'm going to go on record saying that that's all I got. I got the rat, the snake, and the lizard.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I don't. Off the top of my head, I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah, that's what comes to mind
All right.
immediately.
Yeah, there's nothing else I can think of.
yeah, I just thought.
I mean, there's
Ewoks are
Ewoks,
real.
you know. But
Oh yeah,
clearly,
the Ewoks.
porgs.
Well, of course.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I just thought, if anybody's going to know, it's probably going to be Tom. And every now and then in different sci-fi franchises, you get, like Battlestar Galactica has certain animals and stuff that existed on Earth. And you're like, well, okay. I guess they could exist on other planets and stuff too. But then Star Wars, everything is so fantastical and so modified in design from the real world. Like the Porgs were based on actual birds that are indigenous to that island where they did the filming. I didn't know what other real world Earth-based creatures were in Star Wars other than those three. So if anybody out there knows, if you have any other examples, let us know what they are and in which movie. Yes.
Enlighten me. I'd be happy to learn that.
All right. Any other comments on this episode before we turn in and look forward to the next chapter in the book?
I will make a prediction that
Okay.
the scale will tip time-wise. We've talked a lot about balance of time between flashback. I think this is going to be the episode where that shifts and you're going to get a lot more present day. We've got a good setup. It brought us to a good sort of not conclusion point with the Tusken Raiders, but a nice point in that storyline. Now I think we see a little bit more present day. They've also set up the business with the twins. Things have accelerated. So scales tip in episode 3.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, does anybody have any predictions what we're going to see coming up and what direction we're going to head in? Because, and I agree with you, Tom. I think that's probably a good jumping off point for him to get into the current day stuff. But I'm also still kind of curious as to where they're going to, are they going to bring us right up to the point where he's, taking over on the throne there, or are we going to just be left for maybe that's next season in Book of Boba? Because I think they've set this up, and he's now at the point where he's on his own. He's back to kind of what we'd think of him as a warrior or a competent man going about his business, but he's still not leading the crime family there, right? So how does he get from leaving the Tuskens to moving into Jabba's palace and putting up the curtains?
Well, and I think a big question that a lot of folks want answered is, in the flashbacks, he's a pretty capable, strong guy.
Right.
Yeah. In the new stuff, he is weakened, ill, something. He has to keep going back into the Bacta tank. There's a reason for it, and I'd like to know what that reason is.
I saw some.
I
won't take credit. I can't remember who this came from, but I saw a prediction online that he has some ongoing illness from the Sarlacc, and that's going to affect him through the season. Not necessarily keep him hobbled permanently, but it's going to be an ongoing battle. And I like that thought.
I do too, but there's something missing between him being good with the Tuskens and doing things there and being capable to
True.
now he's can't go a couple hours without going back in the back of the tank.
I hope whatever it is gets fixed, because now that they are finally, after like 40 years, making him a good character.
Yeah, right.
No, he's broken.
Now, I just don't kill him off. I mean, come on, we waited 40 freaking years for him. He was an interesting character before because of the mystique, but he didn't do anything. I'll confess that I'm a Boba Fett fan, but I can confess, 2 minutes of screen time, very little dialogue. The few action scenes he had, he kind of messed up and ended up getting killed. Like it wasn't fulfilling. Now he's a fulfilling character. Don't just kill him off. Don't put him in a corner. Like, use him like you are now. Like, do something with him and give us something ongoing. Plus, for the most part, the fan reception seems to be really good. So I know there's some haters out there, but for the most part, I think this is going to be seen as a success. So let's, keep it going. I don't know if we're going to get a second season or if it's going to continue over in The Mandalorian or what's going to go on in the future. But I think to predict, we need to figure out where he's going to end up this season. He's either going to be the boss or he's going to be, the guy walking off into the sunset. One of the two. There are enough Western themes that wouldn't surprise me if it's the latter. But I think the Hutts probably aren't going to show up as, let me rephrase it. There's not going to be a definitive confrontation with the Hutts until probably the 6th episode. Unless there's somebody a lot bigger than them that he has to deal with, in which case that's going to be the 7th episode, maybe part of the 6th. So I think next episode's going to be where he starts to set up meetings with the other crime families. Some of the stuff we've seen in the trailer.
Yeah, I think in terms of present day, things have, even though they've really only given us little bits for present day, I think it's a good setup that we are soon going to see, like, we're on the threshold, and now they can just open the door and boom, here's the big stuff that's going to happen. So I think we're in a good position.
All right. Well, I think we're in a position to end this episode as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Force Chatter. If you're listening to the audio podcast for this, don't forget to head over to YouTube and hit the subscribe and like button. There's a notification button there when you can get notified when we go live or when we post new videos. And also, go to randomchatter.com/store. You can pick up a cool Random Chatter t-shirt like this. I'll move the microphone a little bit. There are hoodies and sweatshirts now that it's getting a little more Hoth-like out there. And of course, we do have them for the Force Chatter show as well. We have them for several of the different shows on the network. So if you'd like to help support the network, but in a way that you get something out of it, it's a really good way to do it. What else? Go to randomchatter.com/Discord and you can talk to us about the Book of Boba Fett as it airs. If you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're watching it, some of us are too. I'm not, but some of the rest of us are as well. So there's going to be people there talking about it. So head on in there, and there's a great community there. A lot of great discussions going on. But that is going to do it for this discussion. This episode of Force Chatter. Tune in next Sunday night, and we will be back to cover the 3rd episode. So until then, take care.